Welcome to the C.S. Joseph Podcast. I'm your host, C.S. Joseph. Today's question comes from an Acolyte member, and it is, how can an ISTP UDSF woman set proper boundaries for a sexual relationship? What a question. Very happy this question was actually asked. It's a very relevant question, especially what the ego hacker community has been learning recently about the concept known as polarity. Polarity being the masculine and feminine energies that are exchanged by two people within the confines or the context of a sexual relationship. Oftentimes people don't even realize that, while we talk a lot about personality type, we talk about, which is human nature, and we also talk about Octagram, which is human nurture within the context of Jungian analytical psychology and Forsyth's dynamics within the ego hacker community. The thing is, though, is that oftentimes people just don't understand that there is an even higher layer. There's something that trumps nature, there's something that trumps nurture, and that ultimately is sexuality, also known as masculine energy and feminine energy. This is why, for example, I would find myself throughout my life being attracted to women, for example, that are SI users, that are not even compatible with me, at all. For example, like an INFP woman who is being really, really feminine in her feminine energy. I, as a man, cannot help but be attracted to such a woman, right? Even though technically there's no way we could actually have a sustainable sexual relationship over time. There's just no way. There's just really no way. The reason why that happens, that level of attraction happens, is because sexuality absolutely, and masculine and feminine energy absolutely trumps personality type, and it does trump nurture also. It's like a higher layer, right? So what we're doing within the ego hacker community right now is actually studying this concept. This concept was actually first presented by a man by the name of Zach Roede, Z-A-K space R-O-E-D-D-E, right? So that's his name. I highly recommend it. Check that out, right? Check out his books. He wrote Irresistibly Feminine. He wrote Worthy Woman. He wrote Show Him Your Heart, which is typically the books that I give women to read. And then he wrote the male version, which is a book called Don't Let Her Lead, right? All four of these books, men should be reading all four of them. Women don't have to read the male book. They could just read the other three books. But all these books could actually be read in a day. They're very short. Worthy Woman's only 40 pages. Show Him Your Heart's 120 pages. Don't Let Her Lead is 87 pages. And Irresistibly Feminine, for example, on Audible, because it's the only one of the four that is on Audible, that is only 2 hours and 40 minutes, in terms of listening to that audiobook. But right now, the ego hacker community, especially on the ego hacker Discord, which if you're not on Discord, get on the Discord. It's discord.gg/ego hackers. But we as a community are learning about polarity right now. We are learning about these books. We are learning what Zach Roede, who is an ENTP, what he has to say about how we can leverage our feminine energy, our masculine energy, especially as it pertains to Jungian analytical psychology. Because, for example, Carl Jung talks about how we have how men have an anima, which is where our feminine energy exists, and women have an animus, which is where their masculine energy exists. And how right now within our culture, men's animas are basically overblown. Let's get in touch with your feminine side, which never actually benefits men. And women are conditioned to lean into their animus and become more masculine, which ends up creating a huge host of problems within all of our sexual relationships, right? And, much to the chagrin of literally everybody within the ego hacker community, this is one of the reasons, if not the primary reason, for fatherlessness, right? And oftentimes, we've talked about other concepts within the ego hacker community, like, for example, the red pill. And while the red pill is a praxeology, and I do maintain that it is true, we have to concern ourselves with hypergamy, which is the female sexual strategy. We have to concern ourselves with polygyny, which is the male sexual strategy, and how that affects, masculine and feminine sexual relationships and whatnot. It's really important to understand these aspects of behavioral psychology. And yeah, while the red pill, it is true, it's a thing. The problem is that when you're giving it to, young boys, for example, or just men in general, it's like giving them a loaded gun. And oftentimes, when they read the red pill, they become red pilled. What this ends up doing is that they end up treating women like pump and dumps consistently. And the reason why is because women are not in their feminine, they're actually in their masculine animus, right? So this actually leads to even more fatherlessness. Because, for example, when you understand what the red pill teaches, the red pill just teaches why things are happening, but it doesn't actually tell you how. It tells a man, yeah, you should have masculine frame, but it doesn't even tell you how to have masculine frame, like not even remotely. It doesn't even teach you how, you know. And then you have king, warrior, magician, lover, which is the 4 archetypes of the mature masculine, for example. And then we have queen, mother, matron, lover, which is also the 4 archetypes of the mature feminine. I talk about these in length on the on season 13, right? So we have a bunch of lecture series available here on YouTube and on the podcast. That's seasons 4, 6, 13, and 31. Probably going to be adding to those very soon. Probably going to be doing season 4 part 2, where I'm actually going to be talking about polarity at length within the context of season 4. But regardless, it's really important for you guys to understand these concepts, because when it comes to the 4 archetypes of the mature masculine and the mature feminine, for example, that is the what, right? That is what masculinity is. That is what femininity is. But here's the thing, it still doesn't teach you how. It doesn't teach the how, right? So again, that's why when you're giving people these things, it's like giving people a loaded gun. It's like giving men loaded gun when you red pill them, for example, because they don't even know how to be masculine. They don't even know what to do, right? And because they don't know how to be masculine, they often end up misjudging women, especially women who are overly masculinized with their animus, you know, according to Carl Jung. And again, it just leads to fatherlessness. You know, the red pill, while it is a praxeology, it's still incomplete. It's very incomplete. And even if you combine the red pill with king, warrior, magician, lover, that too is still incomplete, because it doesn't teach men how to be masculine, right? Well, that's what the Zach Rody books. The Zach Rody books represent the how, right? And that's why it's really important and a huge priority within the ego hacker community right now, especially on our Discord, to learn about these concepts, because it's not talking, you know, people still need to know how, right? So one of the concepts, and this is where we get relevant to this particular question, one of the concepts that's actually discussed is how women, for example, when they assert boundaries and try to enforce boundaries with men in their lives, when they start trying to do that, that's actually them being masculine. And this is like completely counter to everything that women have actually been taught by their parents, by society, by school, whatever. And this is actually extremely off-putting to men. And then women are like, well, why am I always being pump and dump? Why can't I get a man's devotion? Why can't I get a man who's actually committed to me, right? And it's because they're coming off super masculine. They are leading men, basically. Men don't want to be led by a woman, right? Women need to learn how to be permissive and ask for things. Women need to learn how to state what their needs are. They need to state their feelings. They need to open their hearts to men, because men want to hear women's feelings. Women's feelings matter to men. Maybe not to boys, but they matter to men. This is something women can use as a litmus test to determine if a man should actually be in their life. Because if a woman is willing to risk opening her heart and showing her feelings to other people, basically, it ends up, you know, to men, for example, if those men are actually, you know, going to be devoted to them, those men are actually going to care about those feelings, if they're positive or negative. They're going to care. They're going to care big time, right? And if a man doesn't care about your feelings, if a man just treats your feelings, you know, and you're a woman, treats your feelings as a burden to him, well, then he's a boy. He's not actually a man. He's not in his mature masculine, and you as a woman need to stay away from him. Oftentimes, you know, women's parents, their mothers, their fathers, due to envy, due to jealousy, these other deadly sins, they become conditioned that their feelings don't matter, that their feelings are ultimately a burden, so women don't actually open up their hearts to men in their lives, and this ends up destroying their relationships and ends up causing fatherlessness. Fatherlessness being the one thing that we as the ego hacker community stand against the most, right? So I encourage all of you ego hackers out there to actually read these books and apply these principles and these concepts to your lives immediately, for both men and women, because I promise you, you'll have a better life. And I promise you, it will reduce the risk of fatherlessness, right? Because, for example, if men are making sure to not let their women lead them, and women are making sure to follow the lead of the men in their lives properly, then guess what? Women are getting all of that devotion, that masculine energy that they crave, and men are getting that feminine energy that they crave, right? It just basically solves all of the problems. But it's scary, it's terrifying. It's especially terrifying for women with how they've been conditioned. It's also terrifying for men because they've never really been allowed, socially allowed, to actually lead, basically. And because they're not really allowed to lead, it just ends up causing problems. And then they end up just using women and pumping and dumping women because men still have that sexual need and they want to have these sexual relationships with women. But the thing is that if those women are constantly trying to lead them, then they're not going to have an opportunity to stick around. They're not going to stick around for these women. They are not going to be devoted to these women, right? And that's what women ultimately want. They want devotion. They want that commitment from men in their lives. That's what matters the most. That's what that's their entire goal. That's what matters to them the most in their lives, right? So that's ultimately what we as ego hackers are trying to learn. But when in the context of this particular question, an ISTP woman who's UDSF, when is it okay to establish boundaries? When is it okay to enforce boundaries in a context of a relationship? The reality of the situation is that it's never okay. It is never okay. Enforcing a boundary with a man, especially if you're in a sexual relationship with him, is wrong. It's entirely wrong. Instead, what she should do is just open up her heart, show him her heart, just like the book titled Show Him Your Heart, and tell him, hey, I don't feel good about this, or hey, here's my problem, and just stating the problem and giving him the opportunity to solve that problem for you. So he's like, oh, I'm the masculine man, I'm the hero, I'm going to solve your problem, basically. I'm going to sweep you up off your feet, and I'm going to do that for you. You know what I'm saying? That's the entire point. That's what's going to happen, and it will happen over and over and over. And women can trust in their feminine energy. There's a lot of power, there's a lot of influence in that feminine energy, and they absolutely can get their needs met. They don't have to enforce boundaries or even state boundaries to get their needs met at all. They don't even have to do that. There's no need for it. Because as long as they are opening up their heart, sharing their feelings, stating their problems, stating what they actually need, right? Stating what they desire, stating what they like, without them, because, avoiding stating an outcome, trying to get an outcome out of a man, because that's what's ultimately happening when a woman states a boundary or enforces a boundary, because it's supposed to guarantee an outcome as a result of their security. The thing is that women have to understand that they cannot get outcomes out of men. It is up to the men in their life to choose the outcome for them. Now, if a woman doesn't like the outcome that the man provided, the woman has the opportunity to be like, well, I don't feel good about this outcome. This didn't work out. And just be like, I'm really sad about this. I feel really bad about this. And the man, guess what? He's going to feel bad. He's like, you know what? You're right. I'm going to do better next time, right? And then a man on his own autonomy, out of his own choice, in his masculine energy, will do that for women naturally in their life, in their relationship. And not only that, exposing your feelings and being vulnerable with your man is ultimately what is going to win his commitment. It's what is going to win his devotion. Setting up boundaries is actually going to create the opposite. And what's going to do is that's going to destroy his devotion towards you as a woman. It's going to destroy his commitment towards you as a woman. It really will. And oftentimes, it's completely counter to the entire narrative that society is actually putting out there. It's entirely counter to it. It's a huge problem. It's not going to go anywhere. And all of a sudden, women, especially masculine women, NTJ women and STP women, and this question was asked by an STP woman, it's like, okay, holy smokes. As a result of that situation, no wonder these masculine women, from a psychological type perspective, are failing and not having any meaningful or devotion from men in their lives. And they often become victims of men who are just pumping and dumping them, basically. And it's not that there's anything wrong with these women other than the fact that they're not in their feminine energy and they're not using that feminine energy. They are not choosing to be vulnerable with these men. Vulnerability is the golden ticket. It is the golden goose to getting devotion and commitment from a man. And that's exactly what these books teach. And that's why it's so important to everything that we're doing within the Ego Hacker community right now for men and women. This is also one of the primary mandates of our special interest group, our sexuality special interest group right now on the Ego Hacker Discord server. Again, discord.gg/Ego Hackers. Join the Discord server and join the sexuality SIG, and where we will be discussing polarity, and we do discuss it all the time. I mean, right now in the men's group, we have all of the men reading these books and getting educated on this so that they can be in their masculine energy. The women in the Ego Hacker Discord are also being educated on these books as well so that they can be in their feminine energy. And these books are literally instruction manuals on what to say and when to say it. But it's really hard for STPs and it's really hard for NTJ women because they are very direct. And directing a man, for example, is an example of a woman who is leading her man. Leading. She is leading. And that just is very off-putting to men. It is her being masculine, and then he's like, great, I've just been emasculated. So anytime you're trying to get an outcome from a man, you are actually emasculating him. You need to give him the opportunity to make the choice. So again, just state your emotions, state your feelings, be vulnerable, state your needs, state your problems, but allow him the opportunity to choose the outcome for you. And if you don't like the outcome, tell him you don't like it. Tell him how you feel. Show him your heart. It's all about your feelings because, ladies, your feelings matter. But anytime you put up a boundary, it's just going to blow up in your face. You're not going to have any success in relationships, and you will continue to be in this endless cycle of pump and dump over and over and over. You know, all you ladies out there, I know it would be great to have an amazing man, a man of high value, a man who is devoted to you, a man who will not pump and dump you, a man who treats you like a worthy woman all the time. But you have to make yourself worthy. And as we talk about within the queen archetype of the mature feminine, one of the most controversial episodes that I've ever released, it's in season 13, is that part of the queen archetype is being in your feminine energy, right? And that feminine energy really just comes as a result of you going out of your way to make sure that you are in your feminine energy, that you are allowing him to lead, and the way that you're behaving is giving him the opportunity to lead you, right? That's why it's absolutely critical. So do this. That's why it's so important and why we do this in the Ego Hacker community. You know, so anyway, folks, I think that's a pretty good primer as to what we're doing and why we're doing it. But again, like just don't set boundaries at all. That's literally the answer to this question. Do not set boundaries at all. If you'd like your questions like this answered, just become an Acolyte member at csjoseph.life/members. Become a Journey member and then upgrade to Acolyte. If you already are a Journey member but want to upgrade to Acolyte, all you have to do is go to csjoseph.life/portal, which is our membership portal, and then click on the Acolyte membership, and then just go to get access by going to the sales page. Get on it. So basically, for $300, that's 3 months of Acolyte. So for $300, okay, you'll get 3 questions that you can ask me, and I'll answer it here on YouTube and on the podcast. You get access to all of our private content already within Journey, which is years of content, right? And then also you get coaching credits where I could do type verification, or maybe we could talk about polarity and coaching and get you on track. And this is for men and women. Get you on track for your masculine energy, get you on track for your feminine energies. That way you are taking advantage of this higher layer that is above personality type, which is your nature, which is also above your octagram, which is your nurture, which is all those things are important. But above that, sexuality trumps all of it. And it will show you and teach you how to be feminine. It will show you and teach you how to be masculine, how to have masculine frame, but also how to be feminine. That way your relationships are not going to get screwed. That way you are not going to get screwed whatsoever. No woman wants to be a pump and dump. No father wants his daughter to be a pump and dump. Well, here's the thing. The mature feminine just isn't around. It's not around to teach women how to be feminine. The mature masculine, it's not around. It's not even there to teach men how to be masculine. But that's what these are for. That's what these do, right? So again, that's why we're taking the community in the other direction. Because think about it this way. For a man or even a woman to swallow the red pill, it's a really hard pill to swallow. But it's an even harder pill to swallow when you consider the mature masculine and mature feminine. Because while red pill truths are true, you still have the responsibility to be king. You still have the responsibility to be queen. You still have the responsibility to be warrior. You still have the responsibility to be mother. You still have the responsibility to be a magician. You still have the responsibility to be matron. And you both have the responsibility to be a proper lover. Okay? Well, guess what? Yeah, it's nice to know what the red pill is. Sure. It's nice, but here's the thing, you still have the responsibility of being mature in your masculinity. You still have the responsibility to be mature in your femininity. But how are you going to do that? Well, you do that through polarity. You do that through managing your masculine energy, or you do that through managing your feminine energy as a result of reading Zach Rohde's resources. So anyway, get in on the Discord, get in on the community, get involved, get educated so that you can have the absolute best relationships in your life. And otherwise, ladies, don't do any boundary setting. It's just piss men off, and they'll leave you. They'll abandon you. They'll pump and dump you. Don't do that. Be in your feminine energy. Treat yourself like a worthy woman, because the more you do that, then men will treat you like a worthy woman by default. So keep that in mind. You don't have to be on this stupid, emotional, sexual roller coaster of being pump and dumped all the time. Where men don't have to pump and dump women anymore, and then women don't have to be a victim of being pumped and dumped as well, which, is as a result of, giving people this loaded gun of the red pill, without which it's only just part of the equation. People still have the responsibility of being mature in their femininity and their masculinity regardless. And again, these books are the instruction manual as to exactly how and what to do in those situations as a man and woman. And as a result of all of that, we as a community will have the lowest rates of fatherlessness out of everyone else in the entire world, right? That's where the ego hacker community will, quite frankly, be far more superior as a people group with our relationships than anyone else in the entire world as we know it, which is pretty awesome and definitely one of my dreams as we work together to eliminate fatherlessness from the face of the earth. So anyway, folks, thanks for watching and listening, and I'll see you guys in the next episode.